1968. Hello. You're my first chatter. Medium musings. You weren't on the last stream, so good to see you here today. So, the last stream was aborted rather abruptly because I had to attend my class. But, I realized just a few minutes ago that I don't actually have anything I need to do tonight. I thought I was going to be occupied at my friend's house, but then I realized, oh wait, I'm not going today, so I could be streaming right now. So I want to continue where we left off. And I found this video a few minutes ago. Has Been Hotel is Safe Edgy. And I watched maybe a third of it. And I just kept finding myself commenting on it as I was watching it, and so I figured, why am I not doing this on stream? I might as well make something out of the experience, so yeah, that'll be the first one tonight. I don't know if either of you have any interest in the subject of Has Been Hotel, but it's definitely one of my favorite shows right now. I also have the two videos that Claudia Burdella sent me on Discord the other day. So I put those on the playlist too. Yeah, Hell of a Bus. It's that one really grew on me a lot. I think it's a show that can, like, as it continues to kind of marinate in my head, I find myself growing a lot more attached to it. The characters really seem to kind of take on a life of their own the longer I sit with them. You love it? Well, this guy hates it. This guy thinks it sucks balls. His words, not mine. So, I don't mean to hate on someone else for having a different opinion. I'm not interested in Marilyn Manson's tour with Five Finger Death Punch because I don't know anything about Five Finger Death Punch other than that there was a guy at work who, when I mentioned that I was a Marilyn Manson fan, he told me about Five Finger Death Punch, and I was like, I don't know, man, because I don't like heavy music. That's the thing, really. I like classic hard rock to some degree, but even then, I'm not a hugest fan of it. Like, I'm not the kind of guy who's gonna be really digging on like Foreigner and AC/DC and Black Sabbath. I like a little bit of that stuff, like Head Games, TNT, Paranoid. I can dig the really big hits and stuff, but yeah. And then when you get heavier than that, it gets a lot harder for me to find it accessible. So I'm really not interested in most of these bands that people, I guess, associate with Marilyn Manson. Like, if you're a Manson fan, you'll like blah blah blah. Usually that's not the case for me. Manson's kind of a weird exception for me. I like softer popular music, but it's in August. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I kind of want to see Marilyn Manson if possible. But is it worth having to watch Five Finger Death Punch in order to do so? I don't know. I'm kind of debating in my mind, like, the first Marilyn Manson tour since he was canceled. That's pretty appealing. Five Finger Death Punch. I mean, maybe they're a good band. I don't know. I've never listened to them. But, like, usually odds are a band like that isn't going to appeal to me all that much. But, might as well, turn on the video, see what he has to say. I turned the volume down on the video because I reviewed the stream afterwards, and it was like the browser tab was way louder than my microphone, and I was like, why didn't anyone tell me? Tell me that, man. I don't want to be quiet and then have the video be like, Wah! Tell me. So yeah, if there's anything weird with the audio this time, tell me. I turned the browser down lower than my microphone, so it should be more balanced. According to what I've read in the subreddit, he'll be performing like 10 songs first before Five Finger Death Punch comes on. Really? So he's not really an opener at that point. It's a double tour. I mean, if he's opening first, I can just leave after he does 10 songs. Yeah, there's a section of people going just for Manson. Yeah, at that point, maybe I should. I don't know. Concert tickets are expensive, though. But yeah, like for Manson, I feel like I don't know. I don't even really care if it's a good concert. That's the thing. Like, because I know with Manson, you're not guaranteed to get a good show or a good performance. Although now that he's all skinny again and he hasn't done it for a few years, I think he'll be really itching to put on a good show. So maybe, yeah, it could be a really good opportunity. It could be a really like historic opportunity for Manson. So it kind of feels like something as a Manson historian that I really should do. Not because like I don't want to do it. To be honest, I don't want to do it. I really don't. I don't want to go to a concert, especially not a heavy metal concert. It just feels like not comfortable, not safe, But it feels like something I should do just for the like bettering my understanding and giving me an experience that is pertinent to my research. He'll be sober too, I hope. I mean, it seems like from what I've heard, he's been pretty sober lately, so yeah. Yeah, could work.
So more than a few people insisted that I watch Hazbin Hotel, and after hearing that it has a rabid fanbase full of sociopaths, I thought, what a great idea, why not pick a fight with a bunch of deranged women full of antidepressants over the internet? So after watching the whole season, my thoughts on it is that it sucks balls, but it could have been okay if not for the showrunner's need to cram in as many characters and storylines as she possibly could, even if they
Yeah, the pacing is one of the biggest things that people have issue with on this show. I was surprised when I saw him on the Heaven Upside Down tour. He did great for having a broken leg. Yeah, because he climbed on that stage prop and it fell on him. I mean, that's cool that he did good even though he had a broken leg. I just know that Manson, a lot of his performances in the last 10 years have been subpar. Hey, Carl. Glad you made it. I knew you'd show up. You always find a way. We're continuing where we left off last time. Kind of, not really. This video I just discovered a few minutes ago.
don't work and just waste screen time that would have been best spent on developing the main characters, but because she has done this, the plot ends up becoming a mess. But before I get into that, let me quickly give you the premise. It's about Charlie, the Princess of Hell, as she attempts to redeem souls in her hotel and send them to heaven in order to deal with Hell's overpopulation crisis. She wants to do this in order to avoid the Angel's current solution to the problem, which is to once a year kill a bunch of demons Purge style. From its premise, it sounds like the show has a lot of potential for the story to explore. Interesting concepts like second chances, forgiveness, and do people really deserve to stay in hell forever? Unfortunately, the show becomes a bit of a mess as it tries to introduce way too many plotlines and characters, but doesn't take the time necessary to set them up properly. So what we end up with is a bunch of half-baked ideas and rushed character arcs that fail to fully develop, and I know the reason why that is. It's because this was originally a bunch of songs made by a YouTuber whose work mostly consists of adult-themed animated music videos.
So he's just wrong here. Like, this isn't a matter of opinion. Like, this is just a straight up factual inaccuracy. He makes it sound like Vivzy created all the songs first and then made a show around them. That's not what happened. She made a few, like, AMVs of other people's music with her own animation. And then she made the pilot of Hazbin Hotel, which had a few songs. And then she made Hell of a Boss, which had all of its songs, many of which were uploaded as separate music videos after the fact. But she has never, like, made a whole collection of songs and then made a show around that. I don't know why he thinks that happened. This is a weird misconception, but it's I guess it's kind of telling for how good the analysis is going to be when it starts with such a blatant factual inaccuracy. Because, I mean, listen to how he says this.
So it becomes pretty obvious that the priority she had was to cram almost a decade's worth of her YouTube videos into 8 short episodes.
Yeah, that's not what happened. That's, like, that makes no fucking sense, because the songs in the show, like, have a clear story significance to what's going on. It's not like the songs, it's not like a jukebox musical where she had all these songs that she did separately and then just cobbled them together into something, into a story. Like, these songs were written for this specific story that was written by her and whoever she collaborated with on writing the episodes. It's a really weird start right off the bat. It always, it's always a little bit disarming when there's someone whose take you disagree with, and he begins his video by just giving you a mountain of ignorant garbage and just like showing a blatant lack of understanding of the context of what he's talking about. It's a little bit disarming because it's like, okay, this is not like someone I need to worry about. This is not an opinion that's really going to challenge me.
Which is why everyone has 2 songs in it, even if they don't accomplish anything and kill the pacing. The songs by themselves are fine, and most people will like them, but more than half of them are completely unnecessary, and they're sung by characters that don't need to be in the show, but are only here because they have to sing their songs. The time they spent on all of the singing and dancing should have been spent on developing them.
Yeah, and see, this is the first problem I have with this video, aside from just the factual inaccuracy. One of his complaints is that it's a musical. It seems like he doesn't like musicals, but I like musicals. And I would say about 25% of the appeal of this show is from its musical numbers. You take that out of it, and the show instantly becomes like twice as generic as it would be otherwise. And half as interesting as it is, half as charming as it is. I think the musical numbers are a really significant aspect of its appeal. And from what he said, I mean, he said that the musical numbers were okay. And he said that the show as a whole sucks balls, which I take to mean that probably he thought that the musical numbers were probably one of the better parts of it. He just didn't think that they worked in the story. So I think even he acknowledges that the music really gives the show a lot of character, which kind of makes his criticism feel a little bit weird. That, okay, you don't like musicals, but you think that the songs are okay as long as they're on their own and not in a musical, in a broader story that it's trying to tell, because it takes away from the development of the characters, I guess. I guess that's his argument. Which, I mean, I don't think that the musical numbers are to blame for taking up runtime that could have been spent on character development. I think that I could agree that the pacing of this show makes for weaker character development than it could have had, and maybe there were missed opportunities that they didn't take. But I don't think that the songs are to blame for that, for hogging the runtime.
The main cast and explaining why they are at the hotel. But telling a good story clearly wasn't the priority of the writers. It's having these songs in the show no matter what, even to its own detriment. So what this show ended up being is a compilation of the creators' music videos with a poorly written plot to tie them together. Retarded and irrelevant characters like Camilla, Cherry Pie, the TV Demon, Mimsy, and every angel except Adam shouldn't have been in the story, but unfortunately they are. The show also wants big dramatic payoffs, but won't take the time to set them up properly, which is why they end up having no impact. The whole point of Hazbin Hotel is to redeem sinners, and yet we barely see that happen. Charlie, whose entire idea this was, does a shit job, as she fails to help.
Yeah, so the whole point of the hotel is to redeem sinners, and we barely see that happen. It's such a strange criticism. I've heard this one before. And it's like, I mean, clearly the show was trying to. I mean, very, very clearly, the part of the conflict was of the show was that it was really difficult for her to get this project off the ground in any way. Like, nobody wants to come to the hotel because nobody wants to be redeemed, because nobody thinks that there's a hope of redemption, because there isn't really a hope of redemption, because heaven doesn't want to work with her. So everything is stacked against her. The whole world is stacked against her plan. And so the whole premise of the show really is watching her just unshaking faith propel her along her mission to do a thing that is impossible. She's walking up a waterfall with shoes that have no grip and are coated in olive oil while a big hailstorm wreaks havoc on her. And and she's pushing a boulder while she's doing it. That's what she's up against. And then at the end of the season, she actually succeeds. Unbeknownst to her, she succeeds in redeeming Serpentius. Now, the explanation for how that happened is very lacking, and that's one of the big weak spots of that final episode, was that we don't even really have a hint of an explanation for how that happened. All we know is that Sarah said, "There's a lot that you don't know," which maybe implies that there's something beyond Sarah's power that determines who gets into heaven. And of course, nobody seems to know in the angel assembly. Nobody seems to know what gets you into heaven. So it's a big mystery. But it's also left kind of vague. Like what can kill a demon's soul? Like if Serpentius was killed by Adam's beam of angelic light, then shouldn't that like permanently kill him? Why was he like resurrected in a different life? It doesn't. There's no real clear like hint to what the explanation could be, even, and that's kind of an issue. But when it comes to just Charlie's story, when it comes to just the concept of the hotel redeeming sinners, the redemption of Serpentius is the big kind of punchline and climax to it that makes it all worthwhile in the end. Media Musing says, does he not understand that the story can be told through the songs? How much of the story is told through the songs? I mean, a lot of it is, I guess. Like, definitely Happy Day in Hell and Hell is Forever were important to the storytelling. I think the thing with songs is that they extend moments. So you have like a basic idea that the characters are trying to get across. And that can be gotten to in maybe a minute. But if you have a song, it kind of extends that a lot and makes a bigger point out of it, which I think is good for pacing. It kind of gives us spaces to dwell on important beats. But sometimes they're not very, like, the things they choose to focus on are not very important. Like or they don't make a whole lot of sense. Like, I feel like Whatever It Takes was a song that like desperately wanted to be important, but they didn't set it up in a way that made any sense, and so it really kind of fell flat as an emotional beat. So that would be an example of where it kind of feels like a jukebox musical, where it's like, what are we even trying to say with this song? These retarded characters, guy sounds a little biased. Well, yeah, this guy is a bit of an edgelord, and he's also an anti-SJW, which is why part of why I titled the stream Culture War Part 2. Also, Claudia's videos, I think, might have something to do with Culture War, at least one of them. The one by Pill Eater. But let's continue.
Help anyone. In fact, the only person who provides anything close to help is Husk the barman, and he is only doing this since Charlie is not around, as she has usually fucked off on some random side quest instead of...
I mean, without Charlie's initiative in creating this space for healing and redemption, and also without Charlie and Vaggy's like guidance for Husk, there would have been no help for Husk to even offer. Husk wouldn't have even been there. He would have been off somewhere gambling and drinking. Like, part of it is that she's creating a space for sinners to help each other. That's kind of a part of the thing. They're becoming a family together. They're seeking redemption together. And so... And, you know, this guy says that Charlie's always off doing something else. There are moments in the show where there's a lot of moments where she's helping directly manage the affairs of the hotel, doing exercises with the sinners. And of course, there's a lot of stuff that's off screen that we don't see where she's doing that. Like there's a part in episode 5 where she's going crazy with all the thumbtacks on the bulletin board and all the pictures and the ropes, and she's like talking about all the things that she's tried, like the trust falls and the blah blah blah. Now it happens that she's not very good at what she does, but if anything, that just makes her character more endearing, that she's not good at it, but her drive to do it is what makes her the right person for the job. Even if she's not really a good counselor, she doesn't really quite have what it takes to counsel people in an effective way. She still, what she has is the ability to create a space for that to happen, and the ability to grow in that way.
Of doing her fucking job. Now, before I go through the plot, I wanted to point out that the writers of Hazbin Hotel think that they are being edgy with the overuse of sex, violence, and swear words in every sentence, but what they are being is safe edgy, which really means it's not edgy at all. This shit is mainstream, and most shows are doing it. I mean, this is on Amazon Prime, the same streaming service that has The Boys, which does way worse things than this. This is set in hell, yet none of the demons say...
Okay. So, this is like him trying to have his cake and eat it too. It actually reminds me a lot of a criticism that YMS brings up a lot, where he'll talk about kids' movies that get a whole bunch of praise. People are in love with these movies and they recommend them and they say, you gotta see them. And then he'll watch them and he'll be like, this sucks, this is mediocre, it's not very good. And then he'll also hear the criticism, well, it's just a kid's movie, so don't judge it too hard. And he's like, well, there's a double standard here where I'm supposed to think that this is really good. But then if I don't think it's really good, then I'm not supposed to think it's really good. It's just a kid's movie. It's like there's this standard where we're not expecting it to be good because it's a kid's movie. So if it's only a little bit good and not great, we're pretending that it's great. Very much what we have here is a similar idea. Is he wants to have two narratives at the same time. He wants to say that the creators are trying to be edgy with no evidence. And then he wants to say that what they're doing isn't edgy at all. It's mainstream. So essentially, he's creating this fictional narrative in his head of what these creators are trying to accomplish with this show that isn't really justified by anything. And then he's saying, well, that's stupid. Well, if it's stupid, then why would you think that why would you be so uncharitable as to think they were doing that? I've seen no evidence that the creators of Hazbin Hotel were trying to be edgy or groundbreaking, really. What I've seen is that Vivzie is a person with a sense of humor that's very attuned to enjoying sex jokes and swearing. That's kind of how her sense of humor works. And I can vibe with that because it's also kind of how my sense of humor works. But I don't think either of us think of that as particularly edgy. To us, I think it's quite mundane and like a regular part of our lives. Like, I just think in swear words. That's just how my brain ideas. And so I think it's a much similar thing for her. Her writing just has a lot of swearing because the people in her life use a lot of swearing. It's a pretty realistic way for people to talk in our society. I mean, not everybody talks that way, but a lot of people do. So if it's realistic, and it's commonplace, then what exactly about that screams this is trying to be groundbreaking and controversial and edgy? It's a narrative that doesn't really have a lot of justification.
Anything remotely racist, and the only sexism we do see is from Adam, who's an angel and the main antagonist of the show, and that's the reason why he is the only character allowed to do so. The writers clearly want you to hate him, but they completely fail to do so. Instead, they end up making Adam the best character of the show. Now, I obviously have no...
I mean, I love Adam, too. I think he's one of the best characters in the show. I think Alex Brightman is hilarious. I think he was meant to be, like, kind of likably annoying. I think he was meant to be kind of charmingly annoying. Like, he's annoying to Charlie because Charlie is such a good person and he's so not a good person and he's always trolling her for fun. But I think we kind of like to see people troll Charlie because it's funny. Because it's just fun to watch her get irritated. Like, that's why people resonated so much with that Susan joke in episode 7, where she's like, "Fuck you, you old bitch!" We love seeing Charlie get agitated, and so we can't have that sense of humor. Like, this wholesome character who's a Disney princess getting irritated with people and lashing out. Like, that's hilarious. And so we can't have that without a character who serves as that comedic foil, and that's Adam, and he does it perfectly.
Problem with swearing. I do lots of it in my videos, even when there's no fucking need. But the swearing in this is not because the writers are trying to be provocative and funny. I'm more like it's the only way they know how to write.
So, are you saying that you are trying to be provocative and funny when you swear? Like, it sounds to me like this is the only way you know how to write. And I don't think that's even a bad thing because, like, honestly, I think that swear words accomplish things that you can't do without swear words. I think they're a very essential and important part of producing really snappy, humorous commentary. And they can be a really useful way to create snappy and humorous dialogue in a comedy show like this. They kind of connect with us in a way that kind of, I guess, politically correct words don't. So they're
which
useful.
is why we even have the angels swearing excessively, even though heaven is supposed to be this squeaky clean place. Anyway,
Adam and Lute swear excessively. St. Peter says one F-bomb when he's really surprised. I don't know if that counts, because Sarah doesn't swear, Emily doesn't swear. There are the other two major angel characters we see. Lute and Adam are villains, and they're in the army, and they kind of have their own thing going on, and they seem to be kind of exempt from a lot of the rules. So, and I think part of that is to kind of show that it's not really clear why there's a difference between heaven and hell in the first place. If hell is forever, then heaven must be a lie. If angels can do whatever and remain in the sky. I mean, that's directly brought up in the text of one of the songs.
Anyway, let's run through the plot. Episode 1 begins with a retelling of how creation began. This time, however, instead of Adam and Eve, it was Adam and Lilith. And unfortunately, a mistake was made in creating Lilith, as she had the mind of a 21st century blue-haired feminist. So she decides to run away from Adam because she didn't want to be a housewife, and started fucking Lucifer because he was willing to be her simp. The pair of them go on to corrupt Eve, probably with the idea of feminism, and this ends up unleashing evil onto the world. So it's definitely feminism. Lucifer then feels sad for doing this and fucks off, leaving Lilith, not Lucifer, the first and greatest of all angels, but Lilith, to create hell.
I am shocked. Shocked. Well, not that shocked.
Fast forward to the present, and hell is being purged once a year by the angels in order to deal with the overpopulation crisis. And it's here where we see Charlie on her way to meet Adam with a new plan in how to solve the crisis. But when she meets Adam, he ends up being a caricature of Andrew Tate.
Do you know who I am? I'm fucking Adam. I'm
the original Dick.
All dicks descend from me.
Wait a second, are the writers trying to tell us that the sexist men go to heaven whilst every feminist goes to hell?
Ironic.
Anyway, the meeting they have is retarded for two reasons. The first is that Charlie's plan is stupid. She wants these angels to blindingly trust a demon they don't even know in the rehabilitation of other demons before moving large amounts of them into heaven without any sort of security or screening process. That's like...
Wrong. That she never says that. She never says, I'm going to take St. Peter's job, and I'm going to take over your security, and I'm going to man the gates of heaven. She never says that I'm going to be your new border patrol. I'm going to take over your customs and immigration. No, what she's doing is trying to open up a dialogue so that she can start a process that can get sinners admitted into heaven eventually. This says nothing of any kind of vetting process. I mean, that's a discussion that wasn't even able to get off the ground because Adam and Sarah weren't even willing to listen to her, weren't even willing to really hear out her proposal. Maybe Sarah was a little bit, but it's clear that she really had no faith in it from the get-go. So he's just plain misrepresenting what's going on here.
A serial killer vouching for other serial killers that they are now fine and can go and live with the public, and the only assurance the public has of their safety is a promise that once they get out, they won't wear you like a fucking fur coat. The second problem is that this meeting not only fucks up any sort of mystery behind the angels and heaven itself, but it makes the whole point of the Hazbin Hotel meaningless. In this meeting, Adam tells her outright that they will never take in redeemed souls, and that heaven is going to kill even more demons from now on, not to solve the overpopulation problem, but because they enjoy doing it.
Can't wait a whole year to slaughter those little cunts.
So what does she do with this shocking revelation? Well, she just ignores it and continues on with her plan as if she wasn't just told 5 minutes ago that heaven will not accept any new people. Charlie seems to have Alzheimer's because this isn't the first time she's been told that heaven is evil and the purges are based on a lie. Because at the very beginning of the episode, Charlie is reading out of her mother's book, which states outright that heaven is evil.
They would send down an army, an extermination, to ensure hell and its sinners could never rise against them.
Now that's a bit of a problem.
Charlie should have already known that the overpopulation myth is a lie and that her hotel plan was never going to work. But now we have no story, and the only way for the show to carry on is to have Charlie conveniently forget that her hotel is meaningless and to just continue on with her plan to redeem people despite there being no reason to do so. Now, if it...
No reason to do so. I think this guy is taking his philosophical orientation toward pessimism and then applying it to an optimistic character erroneously. So, I mean, one thing I can say, to his credit, he is bringing up one good criticism of the show, which is that Charlie was operating on this assumption that the problem is overpopulation, that's the problem that the angels are addressing with the extermination, when she knew, according to the Book of Hell, that wasn't true, because in the Book of Hell it says that the exterminations are due to trying to prevent an uprising from hell from occurring, which is not about overpopulation. It doesn't say anything about overpopulation in that narration segment. So there's an inconsistency there that the show doesn't do a good job of reconciling in any way. And that's actually a pretty major story issue with that first episode. But I disagree with his premise that this one meeting with Adam should be enough to make her totally abandon her mission of trying to help sinners. She says in the song, "More than anything, I need to save my people more than anything." It's something that matters to her literally more than anything. So I don't see why someone, especially someone with such an optimistic disposition as Charlie, would or should be dissuaded, based on the logic of storytelling, from continuing her mission to save her people in whatever way she knows how to do it. Now, it happens that she doesn't know how to do it. And so her plan going forward is just to keep the hotel open in hopes that a new opportunity will arise. And in episode 5, she's freaking out about it because she's realizing that months have passed and no opportunity has come about, and her efforts aren't working. And so Vaggie tells her to get in touch with her dad again. Vaggie tells her to ask her dad for another meeting with heaven. Or not, no, she actually doesn't. She tells her to get in touch with her dad, and then Charlie says that could actually work, because her dad could get her another meeting with heaven. Somebody more important than Adam, and hopefully less of an asshole, that's her words, not mine, than Adam. So he's applying he's basically like, this one meeting with this one mean angel should have just destroyed any hope or reason for this highly optimistic person to do the thing that she thinks is the most important thing in the world and her calling in life. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, does it, from a storytelling perspective? Like, there's a difference. Charlie is a character, and a character is going to have their own personality, and that personality might inspire them to make decisions that you don't entirely agree with or understand. But that doesn't make that a problem with the writing.
If it was up to me and I could rewrite this entire thing, I would have scrapped Charlie already knowing about Heaven's evil plan at the beginning before conveniently forgetting about it. The angels would have been less cartoonishly evil and still maintained a sense of mystery. Adam would not have been a dude bro. Instead, he would have come across as manipulative by taking advantage of Charlie's naivety. He would have made a bet with her that if she can redeem so many souls within a certain time frame, the purges would have stopped. But if she...
Yeah, and if this happened, we would be spending the whole rest of the season waiting for the other shoe to drop. Waiting for the very obvious twist that we know is going to happen, which is that Adam is manipulating her and none of this matters. That's my prediction. Now, I don't know entirely for sure if that would be how I responded to that method of storytelling, because obviously I have the bias of knowing what the twist is already. So it's hard for me to judge it objectively. But I kind of like the fact that this show didn't attempt to do a big twist like that, because I kind of feel like I could have seen it coming a mile away and it would have been boring. Like, there's a pretty interesting movie called The House. I don't know if you've seen it. And it's a stop motion movie. That's an anthology of 3 short films, 2 of which are about cartoon animals, and those ones are animated a lot more interestingly because the cartoon animals are actually really interesting models and fun to look at, whereas the first one is these really ugly, weird-looking human puppets that are boring. And the first entry, the first... short film in that anthology is the weakest one, because basically it has a resolution that you can see coming a mile away. Like about halfway through, we get a really boring long setup, and then about halfway through we realize what the end of it is going to be, and then it's just a slog waiting for the end to happen. And so I worry that with something like this, it would be similar. But maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, I have the bias of knowing what the twist is going to be already. Who's to say that if I didn't have that knowledge, this guy's story idea wouldn't have panned out well? I don't know. But I do kind of like the fact that they didn't try to do that. And they tried something else with their story. Maybe they could have ironed it out a little bit better. They probably should have explained things a little bit better. I think the writing was a little bit sloppy in that area. But overall, I feel like his story idea would have been a little bit more generic. By the way, nice Art Deco design in the Heaven Embassy. I really like that.
Losers, Heaven will increase them. Eventually, the twist would have been that none of these people would have been saved, but that Charlie would have been unknowingly sending these redeemed souls into a slaughterhouse. In this new version, we have actual stakes for Charlie, as there are consequences for her failing. We have a race against the clock to build tension.
I have seen this
and
part
most
of the video
importantly,
before, by
what
the way.
Charlie
That's
is
why I
doing
knew
actually matters.
what he was going to
Think
say
of the
here.
drama you could have had all season. Charlie could have been unknowingly sending people up to heaven, only to eventually find out that all of the people she thought she had saved were actually murdered by the angels. Imagine how you can build off that. The guilt and feeling of betrayal she would have had for sending them to their deaths would have shattered her naive worldview and prompted major growth for her character. Now,
I do kind of like that
version-
idea, though. Maybe the twist isn't so interesting, but the way the twist impacts Charlie as a character could have been fascinating. Certainly, I think it would have been a lot more earth-shattering than any of the 2 kind of big events that happened to her in this season, which are finding out that Vaggie's an exorcist and her hotel getting destroyed, which she kind of blamed herself for it at the beginning of the Show Must Go On number. In a way that's kind of like it was so undeserved that they pretty much like canceled that immediately with Lucifer reassuring her that, what are you talking about? You didn't do anything wrong. You like did everything right. You saved hell from another extermination, which I thought was a pretty satisfying ending as it was, because I think the fact that they were able to stop another extermination from happening, even just one, I think is interesting. Not just for Charlie, but also for Lucifer, because Lucifer was such a jaded pessimist that being able to see that actually there is some hope. There is some hope that things could get better, that we can actually stand up for ourselves and fight back. I thought that ended the season on a pretty good note. But I can also see it being interesting to end the season on a note of tremendous kind of despair and feelings of guilt and betrayal. And it definitely would have been more dramatic that way, I guess.
Of this would never have been accepted as it has no songs in it, so instead we are stuck with this. The episode ends with Charlie continuing on with her plans.
his version would have had no songs, so automatically, like, that removes a huge amount of the charm.
Wouldn't have a show. There's a boring subplot about making an advert for the hotel, but seriously, who gives a shit?
It's not boring, because it's an opportunity to see the characters shine and to see their sense of humor on display. To see Vaggie trying to do her best to be serious while nobody else is taking it seriously. Alistair's just having a good time watching everyone fail. Nifty's just a complete freaking freak. Husk is just a jaded employee who doesn't want to be there. And Angel just can't help himself but be irritatingly horny. It's a really funny group dynamic. And Vaggie being the straight man makes it work. It kind of pulls the whole thing together. So it's not a boring subplot.
That was episode 1. Episode 2 is about
and it
the
introduces
TV
the
demon
characters.
trying to kill Alistair, the
we need
radio
that
demon.
plot to
He
introduce
sends a
them.
snake guy into the hotel to finish the job, but he immediately is caught because the guy's an idiot. The snake guy gets abandoned by the TV demon, which makes him sad, so Charlie lets him stay at the hotel as a guest. And that was episode 2.
God, that was boring.
Moving on to episode 3, the writers move away from the main cast to focus on a meeting of powerful demons led by a woman called Camilla. It turns out that an angel has been killed, which every demon thought was impossible, and it was Carmilla who did it. But when her friend asks her why doesn't she just tell everyone that the angels can be defeated, she replies saying that it would start a war and that her daughters would be in danger.
That doesn't make sense.
Carmilla and her family were targeted anyway, so telling everyone that the angels can be killed will make no difference to her daughter's safety. No,
it will, because remember in episode 1, Lute told Adam, why don't we just go down there and kill them all? Implying that they have the power to do that. They just don't do it usually because they know that they're not at risk. They know that no harm is going to come to them. But it seemed that Lute was really bothered by the fact that an angel died. Like, that was not part of the program. That was not supposed to happen. And the fact that it happened made her so mad that she was willing to just exterminate every single sinner in hell. And so Carmilla was right. Carmilla had the right idea, which is that these angels are way more powerful than we. So we can't be messing around with killing them in the first place. She only killed one because it was going to kill her family. And once she did it, she tried to hide it as much as possible so that nothing like that could happen again, so that there was as little chance as possible of a retribution like that.
In fact, telling no one that the angels can be killed is even worse, because angels and demons live forever. Eventually, sometime in the future, her family will be targeted again in another purge, and she might not be there to save them. The smartest thing she could do is try to organize a fight against Heaven to try and stop the killings, rather than just waiting to be killed. Also, Heaven has been doing this for thousands of years, and they're trying to tell us that only now has a demon ever managed to kill an angel.
Yeah, that's stupid. That's a big problem I have with this season. It makes no sense that in the thousands of years of doing these exterminations, no one would figure out that you can use angelic steel to kill an angel. That's really dumb. And I wish that they would have come up with some explanation for how that was possible. Very, very lazy aspect of the storytelling. And it was also very rushed explanation in episode 7. One of the reasons why that's the worst episode in the season.
Unfortunately, Carmilla is retarded, so she decides to keep her mouth shut, and that was episode 3. Moving on to episode 4, which is probably the best episode.
He didn't even mention the biggest problem with that episode, which is Whatever It Takes, and how weird of a beat that was.
Because it actually focuses on one of the main characters, Angel the porn star suffering from abuse by his pimp. What's good about it is that Angel actually shows some character growth, which none of the other characters do. Now, Angel is bound to a magical contract to a pimp called Valentino, who makes him star in gay pornos all day. He copes with his enslavement in a self-destructive manner, and the only person who helps him realize that he should stop this kind of behavior is Husk the barman. He is the only person who manages to empathize with Angel, because he too is enslaved to Alistair due to his gambling addiction, so they are both in a similar situation. Now, that's all good, but unfortunately the writers never identify the root cause of Angel's problems, which is that his enslavement is down to his promiscuous lifestyle. Even if Angel was free, he would just end up under the thumb of another pimp because of how he lives his life, and he doesn't see a problem with it. He loves to be a man whore and a drug abuser.
He would never sell his soul again. He made that mistake once, he would never make that again. So, like, the problem is that there's no way out of this contract. Like, if Valentina were just a regular pimp, like, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. He could always escape that arrangement somehow. But Valentino owns his soul, so he's magically bound to do what Valentino wants. And that's not a mistake he would repeat. So it doesn't really make sense to say that his lifestyle of doing drugs all the time is just always inevitably going to lead him into the same position.
Abuser. He says this himself.
I've got an appetite for sampling
Every drug and sex toy I can find.
So unless he drops these vices, his problems will never go away. If he continues to swim with sharks, he's eventually going to get eaten. But the writers don't seem to be aware of this problem, as they think they can have their cake and eat it too. To them, Angel should be able to live like a drug-addled cum dumpster and suffer none of the consequences. Also,
no, because he stops doing the drugs, because he, for a while, he stays clean. And then Cherry Bomb comes in and ruins his progress. That was made very clear in episode 6. It's made very clear that the drugs are a problem for him, and that it's a vice that he resorts to out of desperation because he wants to have some illusion of control over his life. This guy just is really bad at understanding basic text. It's not even subtext. It's like basic aspects of the storytelling and character development. So, yeah, this show doesn't glamorize his drug addiction at all. It doesn't say that it's healthy or helpful. Now, his promiscuity is another thing. This show is sex positive, and so it doesn't have any problem with him having a lot of sex. The only problem with him having a lot of sex potentially is having and spreading STDs. But as far as I can tell, he doesn't. say what you want about it, they're pretty good at preventing the spread of STDs in their line of work. They do a lot of testing. The only times when he will come across people who aren't tested is when he's not doing the porn shoot. So I guess in that case, sure, that might be something to look at. But that's a very tangential side of things. And like, it's always possible to practice safe sex anyway, even if you are promiscuous. So it's not really a very good criticism.
So Charlie is Roy, clearly respects that authority. So why doesn't Charlie
Raleigh,
use her
whoa,
position to
what
free
the
him?
heck? I didn't expect you to be here. Raleigh McCown, how do you do? Edgy stuff. That's something you would say.
I don't know.
In fact, Charlie is absolutely fucking terrible.
I
at
was
her
gonna go
job.
over to your
She
house
hasn't done
today.
Any counsel.
I had the idea and I texted you. I texted you earlier today at work, and then I got really tired and I was like, fuck that, I don't want to go. I would have gone if I had the energy. But I have my second win now. You're always here. Well, I guess we can hang out here. If we're not at your house, we can at least hang out in different houses. I got this Emperador Red. Yeah, I did. I don't know if you got it, but I have this this brandy. It's giving me a second wind. You want me to come through? I mean, I'm in the middle of a stream. I don't want to stop streaming. I gotta plug in my computer. Actually, I mean, maybe I can come through after I'm done streaming, because I can't stream forever. Like, my grandfather's going to sleep in a couple hours, so maybe I could spend a couple hours at your house after I'm done. Yeah. It's just I'm so busy all the time now, because I've got... it sucks, because I got my morning class on Monday and Wednesday, and my night class on Monday and Tuesday, and my movie night on Wednesday, and my work on Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. And so the only nights I really have available are Thursday nights. So I guess after this stream, I'll come your way. How's that? Sounds good. Nice to see you here. Haven't seen you on one of my chats before. Pleasant surprise. All right, I'm not gonna drink too much because I'm gonna drive. I'll space myself out.
So far and hasn't actually helped anyone. And that's the end of episode 4. Episode 5 begins with Charlie panicking because the upcoming purge is only a month away. Her girlfriend Vaggie, a complete non-entity at this point, says that Charlie should contact her father for help. Charlie is reluctant to do so as she and her dad don't exactly get along, because apparently he only calls her when he wants something. But when we actually see Lucifer, he says that this is the first time she has ever called him. He immediately rushes over to the hotel on a moment's notice and is friendly with both her and her friends.
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
The writers are trying to tell us that he is a negligent father and that their relationship is strained, but what they are showing us is a father who is more than willing to help his daughter out.
No, what they're showing us is that they had a falling out, and Lucifer is insecure, and he thinks that his daughter doesn't like him. 'Cause, like, the thing was, he was excited that she was calling him, because the only times they ever talk is when he calls her. and he only calls her when he has an important reason to call her. So clearly, like, she has some reason not to be calling him. And that's something that they didn't quite explain very well in the show. And I can maybe forgive him for not understanding this, because even I'm unsure of exactly what they were trying to do with this dynamic between them. Because I guess the only clue is in the pilot. She's sitting down at her front door and saying, she's leaving a message to her mom, because her mom never picks up her calls. And she's like, maybe Dad was right about me. And so that kind of implies that her feelings were hurt by something her dad said about how he doesn't believe in her mission or message or whatever. But that's about as much explanation as we get. So it's not very clear what their falling out was about, and why there's this kind of distrust between them. It does seem to get resolved pretty easily in this episode. And so that's, I guess, kind of, I would call that a writing flaw for sure. But I don't think it's quite the way he's representing it here.
Anytime she asks, the only thing he's hesitant to help with is arranging a meeting with Heaven, because he sees it as a waste of time. But after Lucifer and Charlie sing one song together, their relationship, which apparently has been strained for hundreds of years, is now fixed.
Wow, that's really lazy.
So Lucifer somehow arranges
Hundreds
a
of
meeting
years?
with...
No, as far as I know, Vivzie said that Charlie is only about 200 years old. So, yeah, I don't think it was that long.
With Heaven, despite having been kicked out from there, and Charlie still hasn't bothered to ask her dad, the king of hell, to free her friend Angel from sex slavery. It doesn't seem like a big ask, as her father is more than willing to help her anytime she wants. Oh well, must have slipped their mind.
What a bitch.
The other half of the episode is wasted.
She doesn't know that Angel sold his soul, as far as I can tell. Like, Angel... See, and this is one of the issues with how the show is paced. It's really condensed, and there's a lot that we don't see, but there's never a part in the show where Charlie finds out about the fact that Angel's soul belongs to Valentino. And so it's kind of hard to say that she would even have the knowledge to be aware of the fact that Angel is in this contract against his own free will. And she also made the mistake of overstepping Angel's boundaries in episode 4 when she tried to convince Valentino to let him spend more time at the hotel. So it makes sense that she would be wary about that. It makes sense that she would want to at least confer with Angel before setting up anything like that. Or that there would be some trepidation there. And so, yeah, maybe it's a little bit strange that the show doesn't bring up that issue, but I don't think it's quite as simple as he's making it out.
On some random fat demon called Mimsy, who just shows up out of nowhere. She is yet another pointless character that is only in the show to sing her song before fucking off. And that was episode 5. Episode 6 introduces yet another meaningless character. This one's called Cherry Bomb. She shows up to the hotel to party with Angel, and you'd think that Charlie would have a problem with Angel, the recovering addict, hanging around a bad influence like Cherry Bomb. But no, turns out she's more than fine with it. She even gives Cherry Bomb enough money to take everybody at the hotel out.
Christ almighty, do some
I love the Ricky Gervais show.
fucking work.
No, this is supposed to be a rehab clinic, and Charlie is just indulgent in these people's vices. Fuck me, is she shit at her job. Charlie and
Yeah,
Maggie...
she's not great at her job. And part of it is that she's too trusting. But I don't know. I think that makes her a more interesting character.
Go to heaven to show the angels that souls can be redeemed, but the only proof Charlie offers that her idea works is Angel, the drug-addled cum dumpster.
What?
Adam points out that Charlie is a retard for suggesting this, so Charlie tries to get Adam to say what are the rules to get into heaven, and no one seems to know.
Why?
They've been there for
Yeah,
thousands of years.
nobody knows.
Has no one done like a basic survey?
I kind of love that, though. But what it indicates is something that is interesting, that it could be set up in the next season. What actually does get you into heaven? I'm interested in seeing what kind of higher power there is above Sarah, because it seems like, Sarah, we're kind of led to believe at the beginning of the episode that Sarah's kind of the top dog in heaven. But then the more time goes on in the episode, the more it seems like Sarah doesn't even really know what's going on. And Sarah, her hands are tied in some respects. Like she says, there's a lot that you don't know, to Emily. And I don't really know exactly what that's supposed to mean. But I think the only way for this really to work is for there to be some higher power, because that would explain how Serpentius got into heaven, because Sarah didn't authorize that. So there must be some higher power, and it could be God. I mean, people have speculated that God isn't going to be a thing in this show just because it would be too controversial, but I don't know, like, why not? I mean, we have a fictional version of Lucifer. Why not a fictional version of God? It would make sense. I mean, we already have St. Peter, so that implies there must be a Jesus. So, yeah, I think it would be interesting to see God in season 2, and I hope that's where they're going.
So much time, it would be pretty easy to figure out what exactly the rules are. So the angels start arguing over the rules before Emily, the angel version of Charlie, joins her and starts lecturing everyone. So instead of one self-righteous asshole, we now have two. The show spends so much time on Emily when she doesn't matter to the story, because again...
She matters a lot to the story. What are you talking about? She's the one angel in heaven who has Charlie's back, who believes in Charlie's message. That's a huge deal for the story. That changes everything, because that's a paradigm shifting moment, because before this, the only exposure this message had within heaven was with her meeting with Adam and Lute in episode 1. And that was a total disaster because they weren't receptive at all. But this is someone who actually could affect change, because she's in a position of power. But at the same time, she's not in a position of ultimate power. She's not the high seraphim. And so she's limited in what she can do, and there's a danger of her becoming a fallen angel, like Lucifer. So this could end up being a really important and interesting plot point in season 2. I don't know why this is like, Emily is one of the least superfluous characters in the show. I don't know why he thinks she isn't.
She is only here to sing her gay little song. Meanwhile, Vaggie, Charlie's girlfriend, is revealed to be an angel, but who cares? She's barely a character with no personality, and her relationship with Charlie is almost non-existent. So this sham of a trial ends with Heaven rejecting Charlie's terrible hotel idea, and that's the end of episode 6.
Who gives a shit?
Episode 7 has everyone prepping for the purge that's about to happen,
The least
and
good
Alistair
episode.
tells Charlie that the angels can be killed. I still can't believe that in the 1,000 years of angels killing demons, only now has somebody decided to fight back.
Well, that's just silly. Silly, yes. Idiotic, yes.
So Vaggie is sent to find Camilla in order to find out how to kill angels, which is retarded on so many levels. First, Vaggie is an angel who had her eye taken out by another angel's sword, so she, of all people, should know what harms an angel.
Yeah.
The second one is
Yeah,
Camilla
this is
saying that
a
angelic
big flaw of this episode. Another plot hole with this episode is Vaggie should know that angels can be harmed by angelic steel. There's no excuse for her not at least suspecting it. It's bad writing that she didn't even bring up the idea before this moment. She was like, really? We can be harmed or killed? It's like, yeah. Duh. You had your eye taken out and it didn't grow back. What do you think?
Weapons are the only things that can kill angels, and after every purge, luckily for them, heaven just happens to leave behind hundreds of these weapons. So let me get this straight, the angels just leave behind the only things that can hurt them.
Wow. That is really stupid.
This being their only weakness is bullshit, because next episode we see them easily die by flying into a wall.
That's fucking stupid.
And the third one, which is that Carmilla is hesitant to tell Vaggie how to fight back against the angels, because she does not want to be targeted again, which makes no sense since her family has already been attacked by the angels. The only reason why the scene
They
is
weren't
even
targeted,
here is
though.
because the writers wanted the pair of them to sing.
They weren't targeted. Carmilla, it's not like the angels went to Carmilla's family because they didn't even know who she was. Why would they know who she was? They're not in touch with the politics of the Pride Ring. Like, they were attacked randomly. Now, why they were out on the street, that's a better question to ask. They should have been indoors. But yeah, I mean, it's not for no reason that she's worried.
A stupid song. The other half of this episode is Charlie meeting another new character, a cannibal called Rosie, and she has to remind Charlie to forgive Vaggie for not telling her that she was an angel. That's right, an actual cannibal has to teach Charlie about forgiveness.
Christ, who wrote this?
Now remind me, what exactly was the whole point of the Hazbin Hotel? Oh right, second chances, I forgot. Charlie sings a song and manages to convince all of these cannibals to die for her cause before singing.
Hold on, let's hear that again.
That's right, and out is Charlie meeting another new character, a cannibal called Rosie, and she has to remind Charlie to forgive Vaggie for not telling her that she was an angel. That's right, an actual cannibal has to teach Charlie about forgiveness.
I mean, what do you think? Just because Charlie has it in her to forgive people she doesn't have a really strong emotional attachment to, that means that she's just going to be totally cool with her girlfriend, like, not telling her something extremely important? Because what that indicates is that there isn't enough trust between her and Vaggie. And she thought that there was. She thought that they had ultimate trust between them. And so that shakes her understanding of her relationship with Vaggie. And yeah, she does forgive them pretty easily. I mean, she forgives Vaggie pretty easily in the end of the episode. It doesn't take much. It just takes some reassurance from Rosie. And it takes her having somebody to talk to about it other than Vaggie. And Alistair obviously can't be that. So it had to be Rosie. But, like, Charlie is so alone without Vaggie. Vaggie is the only person in Charlie's life who really is a close confidant who she can trust and she can express her feelings to. And in most respects, Vaggie is good at that. But in this one case, Vaggie couldn't do that because Vaggie was the source of the problem. And so it was frustrating her. She couldn't confide in someone. And Charlie is an extrovert. Charlie is someone who needs validation and reassurance from other people. And so it had to come from someone like Rosie who could step in and say what was basically obvious, which she already kind of knew to be true, but just to reassure her, to let her know that that's the truth. It makes perfect sense. Now, I don't find it a particularly interesting story point because it was extended through the whole episode and it was kind of made the secondary issue with their that little arc in the A plot. And I don't know, like, it wasn't interesting because we knew what the resolution would be. We knew it's not Charlie's style to just, like, hold a grudge against Vaggie forever. We knew she was going to forgive her. But it does show that Charlie isn't perfect, that she isn't just some ultimate wise, forgiving being, that she does have the capacity to be hurt. Claudia, and what's next on the watch list? Claudia's video, the Nerd Conventions by Pill Eaters, the next on the watch list. So that's coming up in a couple minutes. Go from listening to Boyd Rice talk about perfumes to this. Got that furry video I sent you, cute, LOL. Yep, that's next up. So this one's almost over. I've just been having fun. I've been having fun kind of disagreeing with this guy, his take on Has Been Hotel. I think I'll probably upload this as a separate clip because I think my commentary has been pretty eloquent so far. Largely in thanks to this.
Second chances, I forgot. Charlie sings a song and manages to convince all of these cannibals to die for her cause before singing another song to fix her relationship with her girlfriend. And that was episode 7.
I don't give a fuck.
Episode 8 has Charlie make a pep talk about how proud she is of all of these people for trying to redeem themselves, which is bullshit since no one has actually done anything but sing. So the big fight breaks out and the angels get killed so easily. They don't even have to be killed by angelic weapons, they just die by flying into a wall. The only person who represents any sort...
They were stopped by flying into Alistair's shield. Like, do you not understand? Like, the show set up that they can only be killed by angelic weapons. They're not just, like, the show can be dumb at times, but it's not that dumb. Like, have some amount of benefit of the doubt here. They were killed by the guys on the ground, the cannibals, using the angelic weapons that they stole from the angels and others that Carmilla happened to have on standby to kill them. The shield was just there to buy some time and to prevent them from coming in all at once.
Sort of threat is Adam. The rest of the characters don't feel in any sort of danger. They are
38 hours? What the hell are you doing, Claudia? Jesus Christ. No, you need to explain that. 38 hours? The fuck is wrong with you? You've been awake that long? What? This Reaper guy is quite obtuse. Yeah, he is. He's not a very good media analyst. He's not a very good analyst. I could teach him a thing or two about analysis.
So this goes on for a bit until Snake Guy tries to make a heroic kamikaze attempt against Adam, but is killed off as a joke. Everyone then starts to...
Yeah, it's a weird tonal moment, because on the one hand, I think both versions of this work. It works as a serious moment where what's his name sacrifices himself heroically. It works as a comedic beat, where in true Serpentius fashion, he dies in a pathetic way, and Adam cracks his little joke. Oh, that could have been bad. But when it's back to back, when it's the joke followed by the no, it's very weird. It's a tonal whiplash that doesn't work. But I like both of them. And the thing is, you have to have the dramatic moment because it has to matter to the characters. It wouldn't make sense if it didn't. But the joke was so funny that I want that. So I understand why they did it the way they did it, because it's hard to not indulge when one is necessary and one is so fun that you kind of want to have your cake and eat it too, but it just didn't work.
To cry, acting very emotional, like their best friend has just died, even though nobody treated Snake Guy with any sort of respect.
Because they're assholes!
So they are about to
Keith
lose
David.
until Lucifer shows up and saves the day. Adam's death ends up being a joke. Charlie sings a song about rebuilding the hotel, which only takes about 2 minutes, and Snake Guy goes to heaven because Adam killed him. Good job, Adam. You're the only person who redeemed anyone in the show. Some people will say it's because of his heroic sacrifice, but that's not true, because why did none of the other cannibals go to heaven when they too sacrificed themselves to defend the hotel, just like
Because no, they did not. That's not. They know. They didn't. They fought so that they could eat angels. That's why they were there. Did you not pay attention to what was going on in episode 7? The only reason Charlie was able to get them to fight for her was because Alistair came in and promised them that they could eat all the angels they wanted. You idiot! It's basic text. It's not even subtext. You're not understanding the show that you just watched.
No.
And so the show ends with a season 2 cliffhanger where we see Charlie's mum.
Okay, Claudia, you say, I just started talking with the guy who did the Benadryl iceberg and the Hatman iceberg videos about Satanism, and it wound up going half the night, the later half. But explain the 36 hours, okay? That doesn't explain all 38 of those hours. Okay?
Cares. Hazbin Hotel could have been a good show if it focused on its main cast and developed them as characters. I don't have a problem with the songs if they are used correctly, like 90s Disney's films did, but when you have songs just for the sake of having them, you end up with irrelevant characters like Carmilla and Emily, who are only there to sing their gay little songs. Anyway,
Wrong.
That was the Hazbin Hotel.
It's a piece of shit.
Morning, class.
Yeah, that video was a piece of shit. I'm gonna upload that as a separate thing just so that I can troll that guy. 'Cause fuck that guy. Dumbass. Well, I had school and stuff today, so I've been awake. 38 hours. Okay, so let me get this straight. So let's say you get up in the morning on Wednesday. You stay up all night. Go to school. Okay. I mean, I don't see that being 38. I don't see the 38 hours being necessary. I don't get why you're so cool with just like sleep depriving yourself that much. Like come on. Like I've stayed up all night a few times. Like I've pulled probably maybe 5 all-nighters in my life. But like I'm never going like another half a day past the all-nighter, you know? Carl 2 says he was barely paying attention to the show when he watched Dude Sounds Like a Tool. Yeah, he is. He's an idiot. Like, he made this review of a show that he didn't pay attention to. Like, I'll tell you what, I didn't pay attention very closely to Hell of a Boss the first time I watched it, and so because I wanted to make a review of it, I watched the thing again so that I could understand it better. That's what this guy should have done. 1968, my first impression of that message was you stayed up so long you met the Hat Man yourself. So let's watch this Pill Eater video finally.
This is going to be a short one, but I thought I'd share my experiences at nerd conventions and why I think most nerd conventions are a form of social control, and why I believe they are just pretty much as excuses for the queer culture, meaning that our desires are put under a veil, and that by attending a convention, someone can express something that society disowns and shames upon. So for those who don't know, what's in a nerd convention? I attended a few in my teenage years and early 20s, but Nerd conventions have video games, and sadly now board games, sadly, and some pretentiousness they call it tabletop games. Often you'll know about furries or anime, fan arts, actual...
Wait, you spent a night searching for an injured schizophrenic guy? God, that's annoying, getting that call. Hey, there's a guy who was lost in the woods. You want to go find him for us? No, I don't. Little Cozy Nostril hates this guy. Why do you hate him?
LARPing.
I've never
That's a
seen
thing.
you
People actually
comment on
LARP
here
it.
yet.
It's a whole hobby of its own.
I just heard about
even
him.
though people use the word facetiously.
Okay.
Science fiction, no longer. No one reads anymore. No one cares about Isaac Asimov or anything like that.
Nobody cares about Isaac Asimov or
Projects
Frank
used
Herbert
to be
anymore.
cool bootleg stuff, not anymore. Or any object around to that theme. You know, a convention would sell horror VHS tapes or non-sports trading cards, etc. Long lines and people dressing up and things like that. You know, it's antisocial people meeting to be social, often emulating decadent and normative culture. That's why you have now this whole gamer fetishism, because the market knows that gaming is the next form of medium to socially control people. And
You
now
hate
you
him from
have,
his opening
girls
sentence.
thinking they're gamer girls or something like that because they had a boyfriend or, you know. But I was watching a video, the Down the Rabbit Hole series.
I like
and,
that video.
You know, it's kind of like
this video is illuminating because it explains how the furry subculture was sexual from the beginning, and this is something that furries are always in denial about. And maybe this is one of my more controversial opinions, and maybe it's not even a correct opinion. I'm willing to admit it's maybe not correct. I don't have any evidence for this, but I have a gut feeling that there is not a single furry for whom their furry fandom isn't a sexual kink to some degree or another.
Video essay version of the Encyclopedia Dramatical articles I used to read in 2007 of Kristen Wilson Chandler and whatnot. And he had a really general one about furries. And I watched it, and I thought it was very informative. It was very interesting. But the themes of the old 70s to 80s convention culture is fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
And it made me think about the development of furries and how the origin of the kind of furry fan club were just, you know, older men living in their parents' basement, you know, into nerd language and whatnot, antisocial, and the Disney cartoons and the underground comics and this old concept that being an animal means you're free and non-human and you can express your true desires. You didn't have that rom-com fantasy in your teenage years or 20s, so now you're a late bloomer and you're going to express it as an animal and things like that. And if you watch this video, there's complaints about an individual noticing that the furry fandom was becoming decadent and depraved, and they all became, you know, men wearing animal costumes looking for sex. And how could you base a fandom around that? It sounds like it's
not a
very
fandom, it's a
sleazy,
fetish
and no one
community.
would like that, and no one in their right mind would. And the viewer makes something really interesting, that the furry fandom is a gateway into bestiality. And I look into this, and I realize that's so true. Vice had basically a video titled "The Truth About Furries, Fandom Not Fetish." And it's okay to be a furry because there's a market to exploit. And I guess it's a cultural generation that if you grow up watching Robin Hood and
Fetish
you have a thing
fandom.
for
Fair.
gay furry men with bulges, then I guess that's a thing, right? Well, one of the most controversial podcasts to appear last year was Zooier Than Thou. And the video is entitled "It Starts With Respect." And these are basically furries or ex-furries who talk about bestiality, having sex with animals, and taking the subculture to a whole new level. That's
Is it bestiality or bestiality? I want to call it bestiality, but I usually hear people say bestiality, but it's spelled bestiality, and I prefer that, like bestial. Isn't bestial a word? It's not bestial, it's bestial. Yeah, it's bestiality.
It's not about a human dressing up as an animal.
Zoophilia.
It's the desire to get with the animal, that it's interspecies like, and that sex should be done with animals, not other people dressing up as said animals.
So I don't know how much we can call the furry fetish community a gateway to zoophilia or bestiality. Don't know. I don't know quite how that psychology works, but there's definitely, and it's undeniable, that there is a correlation and correlation is too mathematical a term. There is an intersection. There we go. There's an intersection between the zoophile community and the furry community. And why wouldn't there be? Because furries are into anthropomorphic animals. Well, you know, what's one step removed from that? Just regular animals. So it makes perfect sense. Now, as it happens, I don't think that there's anything wrong with being a zoophile. I think the problem comes in when you start kind of acting like you're entitled to be able to act out your sexual urges on animals, when I think that, you know, odds are an animal isn't going to be attracted to a human. And so it's probably, like, honestly, like, consent in the animal kingdom is like a weird kind of issue anyway, because animals fuck all the time and they don't get consent from each other. There's just kind of this kind of interplay where probably it's easier if they get consent, but there's a lot of cases where they don't necessarily have it, and it's not like they're bound to any kind of law. But as human beings, we're supposed to be wise enough to treat animals with a certain amount of compassion. And that's why I advocate for veganism, even though I'm at this point hypocritical in that regard, because I'm no longer vegan, even though I want to return to that lifestyle at some point. Due to health reasons earlier this year and last year, it made it quite difficult for me to continue that. But soon I'll get back to that. Honestly, I think you're a hypocrite if you don't advocate for veganism and you're against this sort of behavior. Because the only other reason why you would be against it, it's not out of compassion for animals. It's merely out of some sort of disgust at human degeneracy. So it has nothing to do with the animals. It's all about the humans. And I kind of feel like that's where this guy's perspective is coming from. Like, he's not looking at this from an actual utilitarian perspective. It's just like, ew, degeneracy, ugh. Which is pretty trite.
Animals. And that's something true about desire. Now, there's some other...
Neither... Oh, wait. Wow, we have a lot of comments here. Google says it's pronounced bestiality. See, that's just weird to me because it's spelled bestiality. And what about bestial? Is that pronounced bestial according to Google? Because that's weird. Do you have that Empire Was Right video too? Yeah, that's underneath this on the playlist. The problem comes in when you get when you get near my dog. Dolphins. Yeah, dolphins do a lot of that. 1968 says, I think it's weird that people call dolphins rapists when animals can't consent to sex. Well, I mean, they can't like literally say yes or no. They can try to avoid it. And I think the argument is that dolphins will aggressively pursue sex when they're being resisted. I don't know how you do that underwater when you don't have limbs. So I don't really get how a dolphin can be a rapist, but apparently, according to some people, they can't be. I don't know. I haven't looked into that. By the way, if look into the Dolphin Diaries. That's an interesting story of the woman who fell in love with a dolphin trying to teach it English. She fucked a dolphin. Neither of the literal zoophiles I've known were furries, but as far as I can tell, none of the furries I've known have been zoophiles. Yeah, I mean, it's not there's a Venn diagram intersection. The Venn diagram isn't just a perfect circle. Penguins practice necrophilia. I mean, why wouldn't they? Any animal would if they're weird enough. There's degenerates in every species.
Video essay people who made a huge witch hunt against Zooier Than Thou, saying it's the worst podcast of all time, take it down. But this is quintessential queer culture. And I strongly believe that the furry fandom was nothing more than a gateway towards bestiality.
Nothing more.
Some kind, because our true desires represents the animal. And because there's no human animoids, human half-animal hybrids in the world, the next thing you can do is get with animals.
No, the next thing you can do is get with humans. Humans have a lot more in common with these anthropomorphic hybrids than real animals do. Real animals, there's a disconnect with us, usually, where we don't really process their facial features and their emotions and their physicality in a way that feels familiar. Now that depends on what kind of animal. Like some animals are a lot cuter than others. But generally, what we're looking at with furry characters is that usually the features that are made to look appealing are the features that are more anthropomorphized, and the kind of, I think or anthropomorphic, and I think the more animal features are kind of not quite as essential to the picture, because I think you're much more likely to find furries who are not attracted to animals but are attracted to humans than you are to find furries who are attracted to animals. It's just way more common to find the former than the latter. So that does say something about the way they process the kind of features that they're attracted to.
So they make the technology to have the penis of a gorilla in the body of a dragon, which
if you
they're
can't
kind of already
get the
doing
girl,
in labs as we
become
speak.
the girl. That's the incel to trans pipeline. That's an interesting phenomenon. I mean, I'm not exactly I would never go around recommending people transition or change their gender, because I think it's probably more often than not a bad idea. But there is something kind of adorable about someone who just can't get laid, and his answer to that is to become female. I don't know why. That's just an endearing idea.
And people have those strange desires, like gay people with wombs to have babies, so gay men can have babies. But I just wanted to get a point across that the furry fandom is trying to negate their desire by saying it's about a fetish between people dressing up as animal suits and expressing that sexuality, but not the animal, not the apparent animalism. Well, anime is also liked in conventions, and this fascination with anime has led to the realization that anime is produced by Japanese women, even Korean or Chinese women. And therefore, if you really like Asian art and Asian culture, you should pursue an Asian woman. Or if you're like, or an Asian man. I know there's a lot of white girls into BTS and they want to pursue Korean men. They're called Koreaboos, and a lot of white men who love hang tie, and so they pursue a Japanese woman. And it's then when you look up the whole thing about white male, Asian female, or Asian male, white female relationships, it's a form of white supremacy. It's a fetish. Dear Korean girls, stop worshiping white people.
I mean, racial fetishes are pretty interesting. It's kind of a taboo, isn't it? But, so he's making a connection between anime and race fetish play. Okay, I mean, like, this is a way less big of a deal than people who are fucking their dogs, don't you think? Like, is it wrong to have a fetish for Asians? I don't get why. If you're involuntary celibate, transitioning at least socially is probably a good strategy for getting laid. I don't know about that. I would disagree with that. Why would that be a good strategy for getting laid? That sounds like it would be a bad idea.
And you have these like depressive, condescending hatred towards white men pursuing Asian women, which you think would solve like multiculturalism, diversity, or create this Eurasianism, whatever. But under the neoliberal system, they know that
neoliberal,
the CIA form of social control. I believe it's so
what?
White people can remain white and rich, and that we can fight off the forces of China or something like that.
What the hell is he talking about? Claudia, what is he talking about? Let's go back and listen to that again.
Condescending hatred towards white men pursuing Asian women, which you think would solve like multiculturalism, diversity.
So he's okay with white men pursuing Asian women, okay?
Or create this Eurasianism, whatever. But under the neoliberal system, they know that
under the neoliberal system, they know
the CIA form of social control.
That the CIA form of social control.
Well, I believe it's so.
He believes is
so white people can remain white and rich, and
so that white people. So under the neoliberal framework, the CIA social control he believes is that white people can
fight off the.
What the hell is he talking about? This is nonsense. This is like
China.
This is what I was talking about in my video, my pundit tier list, my YouTube pundit tier list, when I was talking about how listening, like Alex Jones, if you actually try to listen to his actual show, it's unlistenable. Because this is what it sounds like. It's like I can't even follow what he's saying. Oh man. He promotes white male Asian female actively. Okay. So he is a race fetishist then. No, I don't have a problem with that, but that's an important, pertinent piece of information. You're going to interview him soon. Okay. Good luck with that. Yeah, neoliberalism. What is that? Like, he threw that in there, and I'm like, what, Margaret Thatcher? Milton Friedman? CIA. Holy shit. Little cozy nostril, because it makes you more interesting, less threatening, and more attractive and more relatable to women if you started as an incel. If you transition to a woman? No. Women are into men usually. Maybe like the bi women. Like straight women usually aren't into me, personally. The only attention I ever get is from bi women. So maybe the bi women would be interested in incel to trans people, but only if they pass. Only if they're like cute little femboys. I can't imagine like some big hulking trans woman is gonna be all that interesting to the opposite sex. Like, I feel like he would be more interesting if he just stayed a male incel at that point. Like, there's a certain kind of threshold you cross where, like, you can kind of get away with passing for the opposite gender at a certain age and a certain look. But then when you cross a certain point, it stops being cute and it starts being just kind of like creepy. Like, I think you would kind of turn a lot of women off, where they would be like, that guy's like fetishizing the female gender and wanting to be that because it's like some sort of weird kink of his. That makes me uncomfortable. Women would prefer an incel to like a trans person. I feel like a trans woman. I don't know. I feel like if you're an incel who's like trying to not be an incel, you know, you're trying to get laid. I don't know. Yeah, the neoliberal thing, and then CIA, like, just all that, just in this totally nonsensical sentence structure, it really just threw me. Okay, let's continue.
Or something like that. But, you know, I don't want to be real conspiratorial, but the thing I'm saying is, in a convention, if someone likes anime, their true desires is they want to reproduce with an Asian person. That's their true, and particularly Japanese. That is their true desire. And it goes back to the furries who want to do it with animals. It's people who want to...
It's weird, though, because you say he's in favor of white male, Asian female, but then he's kind of comparing his own fetish to people who want to fuck their dogs. And so I don't know how that lines up.
Do it with Asian women. And so go to your local convention and count how many white male Asian females they are, Asian male white females, and ask me how white supremacist are they, and go up to them and question. But they don't. It's all this guilt tripping that white people have. But the point...
Who is he talking about? Because first he's talking about weebs who want to fuck Asians. And then he's bringing this... He hasn't even introduced this other group into the conversation. The people who are critical of that. He hasn't even properly introduced who he's talking about. So he's just talking about... It's just confusing. Like, who is he talking about? The people who are saying that it's racist to want to fuck Asians? Like, who even says that? I mean, some people would say that because it's like... You're fetishizing a race. I understand, like, there's SJWs who would say that kind of thing. But like, I'm still confused about I think this guy is like really not good at presenting a thesis coherently.
Point is that the convention acts as this queer culture in denial.
Yeah, that's an interesting statement. Anime is rooted in American animation from the 30s and 40s, and the characters don't tend to look very Asian. His premise doesn't make sense. Yeah, I mean, sometimes they do look kind of Asian. Like, before I even knew that anime came from Japan, I could intuit that it did, just by the way it looked. So I do think that there is a certain aspect of the anime aesthetic that is reminiscent of the way Asians look. Where's the face paint? I did this on short notice. I just realized I'm not doing anything right now and I could be streaming, so I just jumped onto my computer and started streaming. So no face paint today, sorry. But yeah, it is true that like a lot of characters who are portrayed in anime are not Asian. Like a lot of them have blonde hair. Asians, there are probably some small populations of Asians out there that have blonde hair, but the vast majority of them have black hair. So there's a lot of anime characters who are not Asian. So it's a little bit weird to say that, to just kind of reduce anime to just being about real life Asians.
So there's this transformation here. Furries go into bestiality. Anime, Asian women to men. I didn't mention this one, but a white nationalist convention like American Renaissance or things like that, it's free to act on racial hatred or a form of neo-Nazism. You know, American Renaissance says we're all about white advocates and saving the middle class when you have guys wearing swastikas in the convention hall. So obviously, you know, this is a Eurocentric way of thinking about this. It's not like, you know, there's a queer culture of, I guess, blacks into anime and furry who like Asian men and bestiality and whatnot, or blacks who go to white nationalist conference. That's super queer, but I'm talking in the form of that it's Eurocentric, that this is into the Western American experience. You know, our desires...
I mean, black people are part of the Western American experience. There are plenty of black weebs.
Become clear, but no one wants to bring it up. So why are we not honest with them? Why do we always have to play games of consuming in a market and not pursuing what we really want in this nerd convention? Or that we can. We just have to be discreet about it. I mean, I don't want to go into the works of Renee Girard.
Oh, Abigail Thorne. See, that's a person who's been kind of interesting to me. Have you guys watched King Critical's videos? I've been kind of watching a lot of his stuff. He's like this feminist, like a radical feminist who's against trans identity. So he's basically a TERF, but they're called gender critical. They don't call themselves TERFs. And I think gender critical is probably a better word, because I don't know that all of them are radical feminists, because radical feminism is a specific category of feminism. So I'd rather call them gender critical. And that doesn't even necessarily mean that you are a feminist per se. It just means that you're critical of the gender ideology. But he makes a lot of videos about Philosophy Tube, also known as Abigail Thorne. So she's been on my mind a lot lately, because I've been watching a lot of his stuff. And I find his stuff interesting. I definitely agree with some of it, not all of it. I would like to talk a little bit more about the whole gender critical thing and gender in general. Gender in general. Those are two words that actually I think come from the same root. I'd like to talk about those subjects at some point, because I find them very interesting. I've watched a little bit of his videos, yeah. I could never watch her videos, LOL. Yeah, Abigail's videos. Yeah, I don't like Philosophy Tube. I never liked him when he was Oliver Thorne. I still don't like him, her. I still don't like Philosophy Tube very much. Never really liked that channel. I know someone really knowledgeable you can talk to about it. Who? There's actually a person who emails me on Reddit, or used to quite sporadically. Who I think he recommended me King Critical. I think that's how I first heard of King Critical, because he mentioned autogynephilia in a message he sent me. And then I looked up that term and I was like, oh, glad to know that there's a word for my fetish. And then he was like, no, I don't think you have autogynephilia. And then I find out that he's this expert on autogynephilia. Like, he's read all these books about it. And I'm like, why do you know so much about this? Yeah, Philosophy Tube is skinwalking ContraPoints. I swear, dude, I've looked into that drama. That's crazy. Because Philosophy Tube was friends with ContraPoints. And then they had a falling out. And then after that, he started cribbing everything about her. Her visual style, her presentation style, her transness, like everything. It's so weird. Her name is Luna. She's on the Infernal Church. Okay.
Dick Hebdige, but I strongly suggest watching Carefree Wandering's video on the topic of identity after authenticity, Abigail Thorne's profile, where he bashes Philosophy Tube and as well talks about profile ideology and about how the market really transforms the way we think about the world. So if you could stop this video and go find Identity After Authenticity, Abigail Thorne's profile, please watch that. It's about 26 minutes long. Now, I just wanted to conclude that this is really a battle of authenticity versus desire under this social control setting, that nerd conventions act as markets and communes for queers who wish to break up society. I mean, queers being antisocial in the first place, they don't even know how to be social, so you create a fake society. And that because of that, conventions emulate normative culture with the expectations of their queerness that they act. You know, that they say, I like animals, I like Asian women, I'm a black neo-Nazi, etc. Sincerity and desire must be discreet, sadly, under these markets.
The fuck is he saying? Let me go back.
Friend's profile, please watch. We just wanted to conclude that this is really a battle of authenticity versus desire under this social control.
Authenticity versus desire under this
setting. That
social control setting. He hasn't set up the idea that there is a social control setting in the first place. This guy is terrible at constructing a thesis. At what point in this video does he even set up the idea of social control? At no point. Okay, so authenticity and desire within the social control setting. And this is supposed to be a dichotomy. This is supposed to be two things against each other, and I don't see how these are against each other at all. Okay.
Nerd conventions act as markets and communes for queers who wish to break up society. I mean,
what do you mean by queer? Because there are gays, but I feel like the idea of queer here is being used looser than that, and I'm not sure what he means by it, because he's also talking about anime and how that corresponds to race fetish, and that's not gay.
Queers being antisocial in the first place, they don't even know how.
Queers being antisocial in the first place. Okay, so depending on what he means by queer, like, gays are not antisocial, right? Unless he has a different meaning of antisocial. Oh my god.
How to be social, so you create a fake society.
Did you send me this video to prank me?
And that because of that, conventions emulate normative culture with the expectations of their queerness that they act.
They emulate normative culture. What does that mean? Like, wouldn't that just mean that they're being normative? They're being like... Okay, with the expectation of the queerness. Which is not normative, so is he saying that they're taking the normative principle and applying it to queerness? That they're creating a norm out of queerness? I don't know what he's talking about.
That they say, I like animals, I like Asian women, I'm a black neo-Nazi, etc. Sincerity and desire must be discreet, sadly, under these markets. That we all know we like Asian women, but we can't say that because it's politically incorrect.
Okay. Yeah, and just like with the furries, they all know that they want to fuck anthro animals, but they just can't say that. Except this guy thinks that they all want to fuck real animals, which I don't agree with, because I want to fuck anthro animals. I don't identify as a furry, but I certainly don't want to fuck real animals.
You know, in Marxist semantics, I see capitalism and consumer culture getting in the way of true intentions. That's peer pressure and shaming that you...
In Marxist semantics?
Do like that kind of ideal, that desire, you know? That's why Zoomer Than Thou is constantly attacked. People just don't know how to act when they face with their id. Conventions create a containment box or a market to stop resistance from this opening of desire. They rather create an echo chamber, echoing back the party lines of neoliberalism, social justice.
Okay, I don't think he knows what neoliberalism is. Because nothing he's mentioned has anything to do with neoliberalism. And conventions, I mean, I guess they provide a space where weirdos can be free to be weird to each other, but that's like, duh. I mean, what's more of a problem if we're talking about echo chambers is online spaces. Because online spaces are things that you can access any day of the week, all the time. Conventions were just historically ways for weird people to get together, and that's like the only time in their lives where they can be themselves. That's a beautiful thing. That's not an echo chamber, because an echo chamber, it's something that you can lock yourself into and not have to leave.
Etc. All that, you know, of middle class values, of this whole egalitarian, you know what, POC talk stuff. And finally, the values at conventions are decadent. You know, furry sex parties, drinking of alcohol, treating like there's bro culture. I've seen this at
treating like there's bro culture? What the fuck are you talking? Okay, let's read. This guy's breaking my brain. Yeah, he's breaking my brain too. All these things, cons, anime, and furries are all pretty mainstream these days. Like, that's normative shit. Claudia, you say, I think it's social control in the Bernays sense. I sent you some background thing on it. Okay. Let me look at this. It's this queer culture and introduction? That's what he means. Okay, I'll look at that next time, I guess. I'll add that to the playlist. Because, yeah, this, I feel like I'm missing some key context for understanding this. Because he's just throwing out all these terms that make no sense put together. And, like, if I had some other context of what he was talking about, maybe it would make a little bit more sense.
Video game convention before, and it's horrified me too, especially if you're this, asexual gay kind of nerd and you don't want to hear that. You just want to make friends. That's scary too. I mean, I didn't elaborate more on the value part, but it's true. At these convention halls, these antisocial people who are economically depraved and live with their parents, they just want to use the furry convention to live a bizarre swinger life emulating the Chad, like F. Roger Devlin said in Sexual Utopia and Power. And this is very disturbing. I think liberalism is the disease of all this, and the further we destroy liberalism, we can examine for what the nerd convention really is, and it's not some underground activity of plural pronouns, but rather we should look at it as a depraved form of a queerness under the market, that it's this fake form of belonging and whatnot. As long as we understand that, we can move beyond things like this and focus on real issues like abolishing the capitalist system. So, class dismissed. Thanks for listening.
Okay.
I was born in a unique...
I'll save this video for next time, I think. Wow, okay. Online spaces don't have any social rules you have to follow because you're in public. Yeah, like online spaces are way more what he's talking about, I think, than conventions. Yeah, I did not have a good impression of him from that video. He did not seem very persuasive. But I'm willing to give him another chance. I guess. Strike one. I'll give him 3 strikes. Yeah, that was a trip. That was a lot of words without a lot of comprehensible meaning. Yeah. Well, I've been streaming, it looks like, for 2 hours. That's pretty good. I mean, I at least wanted to watch one of your videos, Claudia. I'm definitely going to check out this one on my next stream. But yeah, it's a pretty long video. It looks like it's half an hour, so it'll take me a bit to get through. He seemed like someone who was compensating for some sexual hang-up. A lot of them are, especially because he's like according to Claudia, he's a white male Asian female advocate. Kind of reminds me of that guy Black Pigeon Speaks, who lived in Japan, and he was like obsessed with Japan's conservative culture, which Japan is, oddly enough, a very conservative country despite its kind of reputation for degeneracy and tentacle hentai. But I kind of got the feeling that really what Black Pigeon Speaks was interested in was just he was attracted to Asian girls. Which, I mean, more power to him being attracted to Asian. I mean, Asian girls are very cute. I don't blame him, but like, I don't know. I always felt like his love of Japan, his kind of conservative weeabooism was kind of just him covering for the fact that he's he likes Asian girls. Would take 3 hours to review this one. So, yeah, this next video, The Empire Was Right in Star Wars, this one's about 30 minutes long, so I'm gonna save it for next time. Tentacle hentai is the most conservative thing ever. I mean, there's no penis in it. That's kind of why it's popular, I guess. I don't... But it's strange, you know? Like, it would be less weird if they just showed a dick. So, it's kind of like they have a very strange idea of what is clean in Japan. There's a cultural kind of a disconnect there, I guess. I don't know. I don't like hentai anyway. Like, hentai is just weird. Like, you got all these hentai characters with, like, really bizarrely proportioned bodies that look really off-putting, and then they always like draw bodily fluids constantly, and it's like, that's disgusting. Like, bodily fluids in real life aren't very, they're gross in real life, but they're like 5 times as gross when you have to draw them, and then you see like the outlines of them all the time. It's really gross. Like, hentai is disgusting. I hate hentai. Not sure how I got here. It's been around for like hundreds of years or something. It's all Oppenheimer's fault. I mean, that's what they say. I don't know. All right. Well, I'm going to go to my friend's house now. I had a fun time. That was good. I really didn't want to end that last stream as early as I did, so it's good that I got some time to stream again, and it's good that I got to kind of... I got to tackle that one guy's review of Hazbin Hotel. That was fun. I did a good job, I think, of being very hard-hitting and eloquent in my critiques on that. And then this one was just fun because of how much it baffled me. We had a good pair of videos there. Imagine voice acting a hentai. Well, yeah, the thing about hentai voice acting is that the men all have to sound really, like, terrified that they're having an orgasm. I can't believe I'm having an orgasm right now. This is... I don't know how to handle this. And then they're not women. They're always like 10-year-olds. The girls have to be like, it's fucking weird. That's how you voice act in a hentai. Yeah. I might clip both of these because both of these are fun reactions. I saw this one clip from an anime that was a a guy, I think he was using an electric toothbrush to brush his sister's teeth. And she was like, it was like she was kind of getting into it, but she was also resistant at the same time. And he was freaked out about the fact that he was enjoying it so much. All types of pornography is weird when you really think about it. Oh yeah. Porn is always weird. You can't really judge porn because no matter what you're into, it's going to be weird to someone else. Do you ever like look at some porn that you would never look at any other day, but that one day you're looking at it, you're into it, and then like after that it's like you're not? It's just that one moment there was something in your brain that was like, this is hitting right now, and then after that it's like, yeah, never again. Before you go, I've been meaning to ask, what other videos have you deleted / unlisted from your channel? 4 others. So there's the Pendus fan video. That's the 5th one. Generally, as a rule, I prefer not to delete or unlist. I really hate that. There's a Louis C.K. video that was blocked. I didn't do anything to it. It just, I tried getting it up. I finally managed to get it up after it was blocked a bunch of times, and then it was blocked again manually. So I'm never going to be able to get that one up again, because once it's a manual block, it's like, it's really hard to be able to kind of circumvent that. They're going to find you again. But there were 4 videos at the beginning of my channel before I created Fundamentally Loathsome Part 1 that were just me trying to experiment with making videos, getting used to using software, getting used to using my equipment, and learning how to present and stuff. So the first one was called the Top 33 Marilyn Manson Lyrics, where I just did a compilation. No narration or commentary or anything, just a compilation of 33 lyrics that I liked from Marilyn Manson. Of course, I think a big reason I removed that is because I decided I didn't agree with my ranking on that. It's an idea I might revisit in some capacity or another in the future. But it's currently privated. And then the second one was called As a Man Thinketh. And it was a recitation of a chapter from the book As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, I think. And the reason I recited from that is because I was looking into it because of that part in at the beginning of Slave Only Dreams to Be King, where it says, "The human will, that force unseen, the offspring of a deathless soul, can hew a way to any goal, though walls of granite intervene. Be not impatient in delay, but wait as one who understands when spirit rises and commands. The gods are ready to obey." That's taken from the end of a chapter from that book, 1903, one of the early self-help books. And I found it an interestingly worded chapter, and so basically what I did was I was experimenting with how can I get used to presenting stuff on camera. And so one idea I had was, what if I use a teleprompter software? And so I put that chapter into a teleprompter on my laptop and just decided to read it on camera and see how well it turned out. So that was the second video I uploaded. And then I did 2 others that were covers of Third Day of a 7-Day Binge and Saturnalia, which I have since covered again in videos in my Vedden series last year. So I've already done those better than I did before, so there's no reason for those videos to come back. I think one of them I got my first comment on, and it was a comment that was hidden and I couldn't see it because I had it on top comments instead of newest comments, and I didn't know at the time what the deal was, why I couldn't access certain comments. But that's a tip. If you ever upload a video and you can't see all the comments, change it to newest first. I'm never going to use top comments anymore because I didn't know that happened.
Peak time in regard
top
to Star
comments.
Wars. The original trilogy was...
And so... But my first comment, I think, was on one of those. It was either Saturnalia or Third Day of a 7-Day Binge. And it was somebody like, what is this, like, dress up as your favorite rapist day? Even though I didn't look like Manson in that video. I happened to have face paint on, but it wasn't Manson-esque face paint. It was just because I wore face paint and everything, even those early ones that I deleted. Or I guess they're not deleted, they're privated. But yeah, those are the other videos that I... There's just the ones that I made before Fundamentally Loathsome Part 1. That's it. Those, and then the Pendas Fan video. And then the one that was taken down, blocked. Because it was a Louis C.K. compilation. That was a long answer to your question. I watched an anime where a guy named Goku had to collect Dragon Balls. Wow. That sounds strange. Never heard of anything like that. Never got to finish that one. The first bit about being an 8-year-old pedophile is really funny. Oh, the Louis one? Yeah. No, it was a good compilation. It was good. It's still on my channel, and I'm able to access it through my account. When I'm on my Forever Dirt account, I see it in my videos. But then when I'm on my alternate account that I actually use to watch most videos, it's not there. It's blocked. It's frustrating because it was a good one, and it had like 2.4 thousand views in like a few days. It was doing really well. It was climbing. I'm mad about that. That could have drawn a lot of attention to my channel. I sent you another video. It's an old Jerry Springer show. Okay. That song is totally underrated. Yeah, I honestly, I'm not a big fan of that song, Slave Only Dreams to Be King, but so I don't listen to it very often. But then it turned up in my playlist the other day on my way home from work, and I was really vibing to it. That was good. Okay. All right. I'm going to go now. Thank you all for watching. It was great talking to you. It was great reacting to these videos. I'll continue soon. All right. See you later. Oh, wait. Did you ever see Otaku no Video? It was an anime documentary about otaku in Japan. Haven't seen it, but sounds like something I might enjoy. I like Down the Rabbit Hole's video about anime.